All right, this question gives us a hint where to start. Start with n plus 1 is bigger than n because n is bigger than 0. Okay, n plus 1 is bigger than n because n is bigger than 0. All right, well, I know that I need to get an n squared cranking out of there. So why don't I times both sides by n? So I get n times n plus 1 is bigger than n times n. That gets me my n squared. I've got n plus 1 is bigger than n squared. All right, now the n squared is supposed to be on the bottom, so let's put that on the bottom. But if you're going to have that on the bottom and that on the bottom, we know from the previous question that we've got to reverse the direction of the inequality sign. So that's the case there. And now we can see we've got ourselves a common denominator of n plus 1 that's been made from that there. So that must be equal to 1 on n minus 1 on n plus 1, which is less than 1 on n squared. Now, if you couldn't see that, how would you go about working out how to do that split? How would you work out how to do that split? I mean, you could say that n 1 on n plus 1 is equal to a on n plus b on n plus 1, like you've done before in other parts of the course. And you could work it from there. You could say, well, that means that 1 equals a n plus 1 plus b n. And you could go ahead and work out what a and b must be. So, for example, let n equal to 0, then 1 equals a times 0 plus 1. So a equals to 1. And let n equal to minus 1, then we've got 1 equals a minus 1 plus 1 plus b times minus 1. So we've got that there is 0, so we've got 1 equals minus b, therefore b equals minus 1. So we could go back up here and slot that in there, and slot that in there, and we get 1 over n minus 1 over n plus 1. So if you couldn't see that, you could work it out. But so we've started where they wanted, and we've ended up at the place they wanted. We've proven that that follows. So it was just important to get that start, really. But if you hadn't got that start, I guess you would have looked at that 1 on n minus 1 on n plus 1 and perhaps fiddled with it. 1 on n minus 1 on n plus 1, just out of interest, if you did common denominator that, you'd be getting n plus 1 minus n, which is 1 on n plus 1. So that might, just sort of fiddling around with that might lead you to where you need to start, sort of by going backwards. All right.